Call the meeting to order. We need the approval of the minutes of May 9th.
I move we approve the minutes of May 9th.
Second.
Any discussion?
Just had one question, because there was some discussion about the meeting time on the second to last, the last physical page, the front of that. And I just listened to the tape of it, and there was discussion about like aiming for a 1.5 hour meeting, especially if we're doing 2 meetings a month. And so I'm just wondering if we could sort of stick that in there and really committing to not going beyond 2 hours. Sort of nice to have a goal and then a drop dead time. Third paragraph down.
This is Amy added that she would like to make
Yeah.
sure the board minutes, the board wishes in the meeting.
The board agree. How about the board agree and we'll aim for an hour and a half meeting?
Sounds good. We'll aim for it. Yeah, that sounds good.
And we could discuss it again if need be tonight and just put in further discussion.
No, I just
We'll just shoot for an hour
I
and a
just like
half.
the minutes to
And
reflect what happened at the meeting.
For, yeah, no,
Call it crazy.
1.5 hours.
Amy was lobbying for 1 hour, so. You know.
Okay.
We can shoot for that. Hello, Amy.
That's all
We're
right.
in the middle of discussing the minutes. Did you have any thoughts, words about the minutes?
I did. So Lynn Levine's name is spelled wrong. It's not L-A, it's not Levine, it's L-E-V-I-N-E. Yeah, so that's spelled wrong. And just under the Act 46 update, I'd like to suggest a couple of changes to more. So for this second sentence, this is sort of nitpicky, but it's just grammar. There will be a meeting on the 25th at 6 p.m. And then striking, Amy also reported that she and another study committee member, blah, blah, blah. So I would suggest that we put in the study committee will review during its meeting information received from a recent meeting with Secretary of Education Rebecca Holcomb, and Russo Savage, and Chris Leopold, because he was there as well. And I can give you this if you want. And then on
Would you mind just reading the sentence one more time? I'm sorry. I'll just write where exactly did you think that it was best fit?
I was suggesting that we strike Amy also reported that she and another study committee member, Alice Laughlin, would be discussing the guidance. I was saying we would strike all that and say the study committee will review at its next meeting information received during a recent meeting with Secretary of Education, no parentheses, or no comma, Rebecca Holcomb, Donna Russo Savage, and Chris Leopold in Barry. And then on the next page, middle of that continued paragraph, it says Amy I'd strike Amy, well, leave the Amy part, but added that they did not want to have a strike, and strike that part and say Amy added that a quorum was not advisable given it was an information-only meeting in response to the study committee letter. And then,
I'm not comfortable making that change.
I don't think that's what you said, though.
That's not what he said at the meeting.
okay, what did I say then?
He stated that he didn't want to have a quorum at the meeting.
Okay, well, All right, then leave it the way it is. I mean, the intent was that it was an information-only meeting. Otherwise, it would have been warned to have it with everybody.
I think the minutes should be a reflection of what was said, and I remember saying in response to that, well, my attendance wouldn't have made it a quorum, because I'm not an alternative. So it wouldn't have been a quorum if I had attended, so.
Okay,
that
and
further makes
that leads to the final sentence there. I'd like to strike out, added that Alice would be bringing the information from Rebecca Holcomb to the 25th meeting, because we've already said that, and I would just like to say Amy suggested that Christina talk with Alice regarding future opportunities, because I know I did say that.
You did, yep. Yep.
So,
I'm confused about the change that you suggested on the earlier page. If we say that again at the
it makes
end of
it
the
concise.
paragraph.
Why do we have to say it twice?
Well, then why don't we just keep it the way it is? That's my point, is that the minutes were recorded.
Amy also
by-
reported that she, unless,
I mean, we can add
would be
that,
discussing.
I don't know that the information that Chris Leopold was at the meeting as well was in this version of the minutes, so we should certainly add that. But
Okay.
that, you know, what was recorded was that you reported to us, the board,
Yep.
that you would be bringing information along with Alice to the study committee.
Okay. I just didn't feel like that sentence was needed because it needs to be said in one place, not twice. Good English can be part of good minutes.
Seems like the second strike would be a better place to strike it, I guess.
Which one? On the
Um,
back page?
Amy added that Alice would be bringing the
Yeah,
information.
that's what I suggested. Because we already said it earlier in, and then it flows along with the better of the context of the conversation, which was about the opportunity to go up there.
Yeah.
That's
What
what I
if
suggested to you.
What if the last sentence read that Amy added that Christina could reach out to Alice regarding future opportunities?
What's wrong with Amy suggested that Christina talk with Alice regarding future
I
opportunities?
just didn't have that language because I was looking back and forth, so. I
Amy
did it right.
suggested.
Amy suggested.
That Christina talk with Alice regarding future opportunities.
Or reach out. Talk is-
Reach out.
Talk
Either
a
way.
little more.
yeah.
Are we happy with those?
I had one,
Oh, there's
well,
more?
others, yeah.
Okay.
Just under the code of ethics, second to last sentence, I think Michael offered, he didn't ask if he could, he offered to do the code of ethics. And last line, there's two that's. Michael continued that the board, and we strike one of the that's.
Oh, and the bottom is.
Yeah.
The bottom of Code of Ethics.
Yeah. And then I think that was all I had. Oh, wait a minute.
That's the last
There.
sentence of the
Oh,
page.
that's the
Yeah.
norm setting.
That the board. So I was a little uncomfortable with the paragraph about the board discussion around when we would allow administration and public input. And I don't, maybe I'm not remembering. I think just in the future, it might be nice to have page numbers on here to refer to. This is page 3, I guess. Or no.
It's above the 2-hour thing.
So 1, 2,
And then new business.
So page 4. I'm sorry. Yes, page 4. Or 5, sorry. So page 5, it was agreed that information and not opinions from the administration would be welcome during the board's discussion. I don't remember restricting opinions exactly, maybe I was a little uncomfortable with that restriction.
It was in regard to before, if it was before they got their turn to speak, but if they had input to throw in when the board was discussing, after they could give their opinion. I think that's what you were discussing.
Okay.
I recall it being that way as well, that we were
Okay.
kind of talking about how really discussions at the board level should be amongst and between the board, and that information that we can receive from the administration is super helpful to those discussions, especially when it's the information we're going to be discussing. But that perhaps a better way to move forward in future meetings is to have the board discuss things and then to open it up to the administration and then to open it up to the public. So we can kind of keep it in a...
Okay. Well, I'm uncomfortable with and not opinions. So I would like to have that struck. Because I don't think that information and guidance from administration is really, an opinion is something different in my mind.
But I think the context of that sentence is that like any information that would inform us, like information and opinion are two different things. I think that's what
Yeah.
that sentence was. And I think what was said, what I recollect being said was that we agreed that like any information pertinent to this discussion, but then when the SU comes through with opinions about what we should do, that should come after the board
But
discussion.
I don't think they're coming through with opinions, they're providing guidance. It's never been their role, in my experience, to provide opinions on what this board should do. We should be the ones making those decisions. It's their role to offer guidance as educators. So that's where
I don't think in any way we are declining the guidance or by the sentence that we are in any way saying that the administration shouldn't offer their opinions, but just a little bit later on in the meeting perhaps, so that the
I know,
board has an
what
opportunity
I'm-
to discuss things amongst itself with the information that gets provided by the educators, which can be provided in many cases in written form or in advance of a meeting.
Right, that comes up later.
Yeah.
Right, but what I struggle with is the word opinions, because I don't think that's really appropriate. I mean, a member of the public can have an opinion that is not based on educational data, it's not based on good educational practice. That's what we rely on these guys for, is to provide guidance based on educational data and practice to lead us to make our decisions. And that's why I'm being sort of a stinker about the word opinions. Because I don't think that,
Certainly entitled to your opinion.
I think, but during the discussion, we used the word opinion.
Mhm.
So I understand what you're saying, but I think
Okay,
at the time we were saying,
okay, then I would like to put this back on the next, an upcoming agenda if we can't revisit it tonight,
okay,
because I have issues with that, so.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
as long as it's not an opinion.
Well, no, I'm trying to find the other opinion that you're referring to. I see the one in the second,
Right.
the last second.
But that's the only one.
Is that the only time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next paragraph is one that I struggled with as well, so that we'll save with that for the revisiting of that agenda item. So,
So admin input
yeah,
during board discussions.
yeah. Because I am very concerned, and I went away from our last meeting being very concerned about limiting dialogue. Because I feel like this is exactly what that does. It limits dialogue. We want to be a fully informed, welcoming board, that these are our paid partners in educating our children. And
As I recollect the discussion of that was very clearly stated that we wanted them to inform us fully
But-
on a topic before the board discussed, but we wanted to have a discussion time that was just going to be board-centered, and maybe this doesn't convey that.
It doesn't
but
convey that,
But
yeah.
that we would be fully informed by their, it's like, I think it was medical facts and medical opinions, and then you say, what, you know, which way should we do it? And when it comes down to that deciding, that we have a chance as a board just to do it. And that was the gist of the conversation, and that we'd be fully informed with all the facts that come from,
Yeah,
as much as
that-
possible. I mean, obviously, you can't always do that, but things, you
But
go
it-
down a path.
That, I see that as sort of, that's separate from when we allow them to speak. I've never been on a board where we've not allowed administrators the opportunity to speak anytime. And the same, other than the study committee where we need to have a little more structure, because it is, you know, a more sensitive topic. We've never limited public input.
We're not limiting it here.
Yes, we are.
Or
We're
just-
saying we're having boards discussion, and then we're gonna allow administrator to speak up, and then we'd allow the public. I'd like it to be an open, and that's where I'd like it to be another,
So
Agenda
let's focus on,
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
minutes.
so the minutes portion, do you have any different changes that you want to see other than the ones that we've already
Nope.
identified?
nope, just that.
any further district minutes with changes?
So
Any
just
further
for
discussion?
clarification, I'm gonna change Levine all the way through to be spelled Levine.
Mhm.
I am going to change under unfinished business, the Act 46 update. The second sentence is gonna read, there will be a meeting. I'm not gonna make the change that you recommended for the bottom of that page because we're gonna make the change at the end of page 3, which is going to
Well,
read.
no, I don't understand why we're not making that one, because it's not
We're
gonna
just gonna
be,
add Chris Leopold's name.
I don't understand why we're not changing the third sentence, because the study committee will be reviewing at that meeting on the 25th, the information from the recent meeting with the Secretary of Education. And that's why we struck out that last.
So at the meeting, I distinctly recall that you said you were reporting that you and Alice would be bringing that information to the study committee. So
Okay.
that's kind of how it reads right now, was a reflection of what happened at the meeting. And whether or not the study committee chooses to do so was not how the meeting happened a couple weeks ago. It was rather that you reported that yourself and Alice would bring the information that you learned about to the study committee's next meeting. It
Okay,
may be
well-
a distinction without difference in some ways, but at least the minutes reflect kind of how you presented it to our board at that meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay, well, if I presented it that way, that's not the way I meant it. So,
Okay.
and I really would rather have it changed to my suggestion, which is that the study committee's gonna bring it, will review the information. It's not gonna just come from me and Alice, it's gonna come from Ron, it's gonna come from Frank. So,
Could I suggest that it's on tape, that we review the tape and postpone the minutes review?
I don't think it's worth
Okay,
that much.
all right.
I mean, if you guys feel strongly that it has to stay the same, I don't.
Yeah, I feel strongly that it should stay the same way that it was, with the addition of adding Secretary of Education Rebecca Holcomb, Donna Russo Savage, and Chris Leopold. Then the last sentence in that paragraph is going to be changed to read, Amy suggested that Christina reach out and talk to
No,
Alice
talk
regarding,
with.
and
We don't
talk
need to reach out.
with,
Could talk to,
could talk to Alice regarding future opportunities. Do we want to say future opportunities of the Act 46 Study Committee, or is that just
I think it's
we're
implied.
gonna go?
I think it's implied.
Fun. The next paragraph down, the third to bottom line, it's gonna read, Michael offered to take a proposed pledge and blah, blah, blah. We're gonna remove one of those ats at the bottom of that page.
That's,
One of those that's, not ats, mistake. And I think a little before you came in, Christina had made a suggestion that the board agreed, so on page 5, right before new business, that this is gonna read, the board agreed and will aim for 1.5-hour meetings.
Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes with the changes that were just said, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions? Excellent. Communications.
I received an email from Barb, Nowakowski?
Nowakowski.
I'm sorry, yeah, Nowakowski, if I said that wrong. With regard to when I had sent her the draft minutes for this past meeting, and I can read what she wrote to me. It was regarding, she had read them to review them, I think for grammatical and whatnot. Good morning, I wanted to clarify that Russ Janis is a WSESU voting member. It's recorded in the BUHS number 6 board's 320 minutes, and he was appointed for this year and was appointed last year at the board's 317 meeting. It was actually 3716, I actually just looked before this meeting. There's also confirmed by, this is also confirmed by handwritten notation by administration on the specific agendas for those meetings. Perhaps Russ may not have been able to attend a specific meeting, and another director was appointed to step in for him, which sometimes happens. Please let me know if you want me to update the minutes or leave as is. Thanks, Barb. I asked her to leave the minutes as they were because that reflected what had happened at our meeting, but wanted to share that communication with the board.
All right, well, to that point, Roger Quadro, who was a longtime board member here, served on the WSCSU Finance Committee and was never, was not a WSCSU board member. And he was the chair of the SU Finance Committee during those times. So it's, and I rarely have seen Russ at SU board meetings. of late.
Somebody
Yeah.
covered from,
Yeah.
Woody's the alternate.
You done with that? I do.
Yeah, that's my communication.
I had a communication from Paul Smith about the PreK. Request that we made for Frank to look at the costs and benefits of adding in-house PreK. And shall I read it? Shall I copy it to people? It's not very long. I could read it quickly.
If you summarize it, it'd be good.
That there's a lot of things up in the air in the legislature about changing the PreK program. However, that's the PreK program, the ADM, the $3,000 for 10 hours of PreK thing. But anyway, Frank suggested that we hold off until the legislature is finished, which may never happen this year. And I don't think I was trying to look that up. It just doesn't look like the legislature acted on changing PreK financing.
Don't know.
And he also cautioned us, which we had already talked about, that ADM takes a while to catch up, and that we would have to take a hit for a while till our ADM numbers caught up with us. But we had already had that discussion, but you can't know what you're catching up to if you don't know what your benefit. You can't do a cost-benefit analysis if you don't know what the benefit is. So we had talked about that ahead of time, so the board was aware of that.
Could I just add, it might come up later on if we continue this discussion on the PreK update, but we did research the number of 4-year-olds in your private providers from Dummerston, and there are currently 10. So that has an impact on trying to start a program. You know, if you're gonna hire a teacher and typically 1 aide, you typically have 15 or more students. 10 is pretty tough to
Make it go,
make
right?
it cost effective.
Of course, if it's free, you might have more.
Well, it's not really free, because we all
If
pay
it's
for
free
it
to
as
the,
taxpayers.
if it's free to the taxpayer.
Yeah, it's free to the.
If it's free to the parent.
Yeah,
To the parent.
so who pays
Right.
for that? The board.
Yeah.
the board,
Yeah,
yeah. But then we
It's
get
not
the
free.
bodies on our ADM count, that's
Yeah,
the.
But
So
it's not, that's not a full ADM.
Yeah.
It's like a .25 or something.
No,
Point
no,
14.
no, when they're in-house, no, if you do it,
Yeah.
Oh, it's still, so a percentage, it's like half, less than half.
it's a .4. I've gotta go back and look at my numbers, but
Yeah.
anyway, I will.
0.42. But anyway, it's very expensive for a low number, especially if you're gonna have a free, well, no, so you might attract 5 more students if they're here. Well, we can show you what the cost would be.
Yeah, I think that's, we just kind of want an idea of what the ADM benefit would be and what the cost would be, and
Okay. Any other communications?
Well,
Yes?
I think we're gonna discuss it later on, but I made a communication which was circulating the draft of the school board ethics pledge that I reworked. So I
Okay.
made that communication to the board members, and it looks like we're gonna discuss it further on.
Yeah.
And I got a communication from you about Frank to the Energy Committee.
Mhm.
Everybody got that?
Yep.
Yeah.
What was that about?
There had been a request from the Dummerston Energy Committee, wondering what kind of energy improvements the Dummerston Town School Board had done, and that was made to Frank. So Frank CC'd the board, letting him know that were almost there on the solar project, and that the town had also approved some HVAC improvements that would speak to that energy consumption.
I don't, but it was just, he didn't reference the HVAC specifically in his
He
email.
did, yeah.
He did?
HVAC, for
'Cause I
paving
thought-
and HVAC improvements.
Oh, okay.
So,
I just read the 60K number, so.
yeah. Because I wondered about that, but that made sense when I read the question, and then it was,
Okay.
and also the food program, that we're gonna be discussing later, contract I received.
I'm wondering if we'd like to have the middle school report. Yes.
I sent 2 communications in. I haven't heard them reported now. Did you not get them?
Well, there was the one about the television, so, okay.
Oh, no, that's the
Right,
3rd
so-
one.
Remind me.
Well, I sent one in also from the central office about Russ Janis's position with all the list of dates and everything that he was there. And then I sent one in that I'd like to have read tonight. A personal one. Did you get it, Michael?
I'm looking. Sorry.
Oh, that, okay. We don't need to read that, Jody.
Yes, we do. And I don't have it in front of me.
Did I get this?
No, you didn't, because it was to me. And she CC'd Michael. It was like,
Okay.
sorry to see you go, Katie.
If you find it, Katie, I can read it, but I don't have
Okay.
it in front of me.
I can find it.
I'll look for it real quick.
Do you,
Actually, you could do recognition of groups, and Michael could look for it.
okay. Recognition of groups. Hi, Jody.
How-
Hi, Dan. Hi, Rick.
Are we going to look for this?
Michael's
Yeah,
looking
Michael's
for
looking
it
for it.
while
Okay.
she moves
Yeah.
ahead with this piece.
So, yeah.
And then I have 2 things I'd like to say, but maybe you want to take her first and come back to recognition of groups. I'll leave it
So-
up to you.
So just hold all those thoughts.
Mm.
So, is anyone here for any specific agenda item that, or just to,
Well, I don't want to embarrass you, Rick Mills from Dummerston. And jump ahead of the board, but this upcoming board vacancy, I just came to thank you for your service and tell you what a pleasure it was serving with you for 3 years.
thank you, Rick.
So I came tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, how do we feel, oh, did you find it?
I found 2 communications from Jody. Katie's resignation, sorry that you're leaving. Done a great job.
That's the one I'd like to have read.
Would you like me to read it?
I'm not gonna read it, I'll tell you that much.
This is from Jody. Hi, Katie. I am sorry to see that you will be leaving Dummerston and therefore the school board. As a member of the board and as the chair for the last couple of years, you have been a breath of fresh air. You have brought a quiet, dignified, and inclusive atmosphere to the board, something I have greatly appreciated. You have been an open, kind, and friendly chair. Your presence will be greatly missed. I wish you well wherever you will be. Thank you for your service. Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Not going far. So how do we feel about moving Ellen's presentation up? Is everyone in agreement, or do you want to sit here for the rest of the meeting? You are more than welcome.
I'd like to be home for bedtime.
I'm all for it.
Okay. Well, Joe Carroll asked me to come and talk about the shift that's happening in the state and the SU towards proficiency-based learning. So the first thing that I have to show you is just a video with a sort of an overview of proficiency-based learning, if you're open to seeing it. It was brought to my attention from by Lyle Holiday. So she's a reputable source. All right, so
Parent had come
And talk about, yeah.
sort of start when they were starting the process.
sorry, I know I don't know how to make it so that you can see it and other I know these guys can see it.
You should do it more towards there. I can move if need be.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll move it. Sorry.
What's the deal with proficiency-based learning?
Hi,
Okay. Is that gonna work?
my name's Annika, a Vermont high school student. You may have noticed there's a lot of buzz and activity around school change these days, with both teachers and students working to shift the current system to something that will improve learning and teaching even more. One main focus right now is proficiency-based learning, also known as PBL. It is a way to personalize learning and assessment so that you can learn at your best pace and demonstrate your learning in different ways. All schools are transitioning to this system, and all students will graduate based on proficiency by 2020. Now, I know many of you like the system the way it is, but once you understand how you can play a bigger role in shaping your education and monitoring your progress, it will become both more challenging and more fun.
Why change to proficiencies? Our rapidly changing world.
One reason we are changing to a proficiency-based system is because the world around us is changing. Schools are responding by redefining the ways we learn and how that learning is assessed. In order for us to be effective in whatever path we choose after graduation, we need to be truly prepared.
Grading doesn't tell the whole story.
Another part of why schools are moving towards proficiencies is that using only letter grades is a pretty limiting way to assess learning. Let's say you mess up early in the year and get a 0, like not handing in an assignment or bombing a big test. You can usually never get your grade back up, even if you figured out the material later on. In the old grading system, your final grade is based on an average of all assignments. In the new system, you get to keep working on something until you get it. So it more accurately reflects what you know and can do. Wouldn't you rather have your grade represent what you can actually do through this type of meaningful assessment? You see, what we sometimes call failure is simply another step in the learning process. Since proficiency systems don't penalize us for making mistakes along the way, we can take risks and learn more. After all, none of us knew how to ride a bike the first time we got on it, right?
Proficiencies match the way the brain learns.
We know each of us learns different subjects at different rates. Proficiency-based learning lets people advance through school at their own pace. I may be great in math and be able to pick up the pace in that subject, but I might need more time to master science. Proficiencies allow us to match our pace of learning in each subject. With more time, practice, feedback, and support, I can reach proficiency even in challenging subjects.
Proficiencies personalize learning.
Finally, proficiency-based learning is more personalized, so you can learn the content and demonstrate your learning in different ways, not just with tests and essay.
What are proficiencies?
Being proficient at something includes both knowledge and skills. Let's take, for example, driving a car. Not only does a licensed driver need to intellectually know and understand all the complexities of driving a car and the rules of the road, she also needs to apply that knowledge by actually driving. Proficiency-based learning is the same way. Not only do you need to know content in a subject, but you also need to know how to apply it, and usually it takes practice to really learn these skills. Just like learning to parallel park. Almost. Closer. Got it. Here's an example of a proficiency in global citizenship. It reads, I can propose solutions to local and world issues by using geographic tools to analyze data and examine cultural information. It's cool that it's written that way because it's really specific about what I need to learn, figuring out how to use geographic tools and data to explore an issue in my town or the world that interests me. Maybe something like using GIS neighborhood information to coordinate recycling pickup so there are less trucks on the road. Then I can demonstrate my learning by presenting at a community meeting on how to reduce pollution. What I'm learning is clear, relevant, meaningful, and I have more say in how I get there. Proficiencies let us spend less time memorizing facts and more time doing active and applied learning. In this case, the learning equation looks like this. Knowledge equals identifying a world issue. Skills equals analyzing and using geographic tools to figure out a creative solution. Proficient equals presenting an evidence-based solution.
All brains grow.
We now know that intelligence is not fixed and that all brains can and do grow. In this sense, the way we learn is the same way we strengthen our muscles, with time, practice, feedback, and support. And everyone can get stronger physically and mentally. A proficiency system gives us the space to grow from where we start. So even if we hit a wall, we can pick ourselves up and keep going.
Transferable skills.
Finally, you might be hearing about transferable skills. They are the skills that serve us for life, like being able to communicate effectively, creatively solve problems, be self-directed, make a positive difference in our world, and be able to apply our thinking to many situations. Building these skills will ensure that we have many choices after graduation.
Grades in college.
Some people are concerned that not having a traditional report card will hurt their chances of getting into college. Well, the fact is that many colleges have already been looking at proficiency-based transcripts for years. When they see you have achieved proficiency in a subject, it tells them what content and skills you have actually mastered, rather than the vagueness of a grade. A proficiency-based transcript will also give a better picture of who you are by including things like career and technical courses, dual enrollment courses, internships, service learning, and independent studies. Some transcripts may include standardized test scores. Your school is somewhere on the journey towards adopting proficiencies. The road may be unfamiliar for a while, but we're all going to the same place. So be open, be flexible, stick with it. You'll discover that with proficiencies, school can be more empowering, meaningful, and relevant, and more in your control. Enjoy the ride!
Okay. So, in order to help this transition, the State of Vermont Agency of Education has created sample proficiencies and transferable skills that schools can use to make this happen in their supervisory union, in their schools, in their school districts, which I have copies of if anyone is interested in seeing. But what I'm here to talk to you about briefly is just what we've been doing at Dummerston School in order to facilitate this transition. So anyone who has children in the high school has been hearing a lot about this. I think the last I heard, the current sophomores are receiving both traditional and proficiency-based grades, and they're, I think, the last class that will receive traditional grades. Now, this video is pretty pro proficiency-based learning, which is fine with me. I actually am a proponent of proficiency-based learning. But it is a huge change, and I think that what parents are going to see most clearly from their perspective is a change in the grades and the report card that comes home. But really, it's a much deeper change than that, and it's a real, I think, paradigm shift for teachers and students. So at the supervisory union level, at grade level meetings for the past few years, we've looked at the sample proficiencies and compared them to WSESU grade level expectations in various subjects, and discovered that they're incredibly similar. So this change will not mean teaching anything new necessarily. It's more about how the teaching will happen and how the learning will be assessed. And so at Dummerston School, what we've done is we've taken the sample proficiencies from the state and looked at them and we've just started this. I mean, this is a huge task, but try to evaluate what we're already doing and whether there are any holes. The way that the information from the state, the suggestions from the state is set up is there's categories, which are academic subjects, and then within each academic subject is or are the proficiencies. So for example, what I have here are is the geography proficiency under the category of global citizenship. And so if you look at this, you can see that the proficiency is in the green column on the left. And then there are 3 additional columns which suggest performance indicators for elementary school, middle school, and high school. And so what this means is that in order to graduate from high school, students will need to demonstrate proficiency in that right-hand column. Or at least something similar to that right-hand column. So what we did is we've done this for a couple of proficiencies. We looked at the performance indicators for both elementary school and middle school in a pretty simple way. Like, I hung that poster up at a faculty meeting. You can see that is the poster for the elementary level geography, the first performance indicator related to geography, so 3A, which is about being able to observe, compare, and analyze patterns of national and global land use to understand why particular locations are used for certain human activities. So I don't expect that you'll be able to read that, but you can see that the teachers thought about their teaching and what we already do in that area to meet that performance indicator, and we just put sticky notes on a poster. And we did that for each of the performance indicators under elementary school and middle school. And what we ended up with was a document that Joe Carroll has copies of that shows what is happening related to the proficiency area of geography at all grade levels in the school. And so it's a pretty clear snapshot of what we're doing, and it allows us to evaluate whether we're doing enough to prepare our students at Dummerston School for the expectations once they get to the high school. And so we'll be doing this, we'll keep on doing this, because, I mean, this proficiency area of geography is one of, I think, 6 in the area of global citizenship. And global citizenship is one of maybe 5 academic subject areas for which there are proficiencies. So this is a pretty small part of a pretty big project, but it's been really useful, I think, in looking at how we're preparing our students for this change, which is going to really impact them at the high school level.
So when you said it's just one aspect of it, when I looked at our faculty meeting schedule, we had the geography, but we also have upcoming or have gone through cultural history, economics, and what's one other?
I think civics.
Civics, yeah, so, and that's just social studies.
Right.
So, it's, yes.
Yeah, how many different proficiencies do they have under traditional grade? You know what I mean? Like when you think science, English, social studies, math.
I don't think the number of expectations has changed. I don't know the exact answer, but my perception is that it's not that there's more being expected.
Right.
I don't know, do you think that's true?
I think that's true, but I think there is a lot. I mean, I think there.
Oh, yeah.
a
It
lot
seems like
hasn't,
they're-
you know,
Yeah,
hasn't
like
found a
there's.
standard it didn't like to have accomplished.
Right.
And I think in terms of sort of helping the assessment piece of it is where those transferable skills come in, the
Mhm.
proficiency-based learning, that sort of really looking at those categories, which are 5 or 4, depending on whether you're using the states or the high schools.
Those are things like clear and effective communication, self-direction, creative and practical problem solving. Those are
Responsible citizenship and informed integrative thinking. As sort of the overarching of all of the different proficiencies.
And they really provide helpful guidance in terms of thinking as a teacher about how to address these performance indicators. So
That seems like a great start to talk about what you were already teaching and how does it fit
Yeah.
into the, so you know, reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. And I think and part of our next step and some of the pieces that we may have missed is how the clubs are affecting some of the transferable skills. Like the group that's doing the middle school newsletter.
Mhm.
You know, they're running their own little show in terms of editor, photographer, coming together every week, making decisions about what goes in. Their history of the alumni, interviewing skills, getting a sense of this town and the school and the culture of the town. I mean, I just think there's so many things that are peripheral to it, but very important ultimately to those transferable skills and the proficiency-based assessments.
Jody has a question.
I may have missed it, but with the proficiencies, you said something about the end of high school. But are there proficiencies that you need to have at the end of each grade or before they graduate from 8th grade, or if they just have to have those proficiencies by the end of high school?
I mean, I think the expectation is that they'll have, they'll have reached the middle school proficiencies by the time they leave middle school. But I think that the stakes are higher at the high school level.
So you're not just pushing it off through the high school, you're going to keep the proficiencies as you go along there.
Yeah, oh yeah. And they haven't broken them down, as far as I know, any further than these 3 levels, the elementary, middle, and high school. I don't know, there are people in this room that know more than me, so maybe they know.
Thank
But,
you.
sure.
Is this a Vermont thing or a national thing?
I think it's a Vermont thing. I don't know how much.
It's both.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Vermont level, it's been talked about for quite a few years. It's actually good to see it finally happening, so.
And it also ties in those personal learning plans, which is another thing that we know it started at the middle school and will follow kids through high school. I think you may start seeing things in terms like capstone projects and sort of culminating kinds of assessments for possibly the end of 8th grade, possibly the end of high school.
Right. And I mean, in saying that there aren't new expectations about what students should be taught, I don't mean to imply that the change will be easy, because I think even for me, someone who's sort of pseudo-used proficiency-based grading for many years, it's still a huge paradigm shift. and a challenge, pretty big professional challenge.
I have a concern just on a parent level about how parents are going to be understanding the change in grades, and for a child who did most of her VHS Algebra 1 class in a week, how that ability to, if you didn't do well, you can, but as a procrastinator myself, I see the ability to go, wow, I could push that all into the last week, and so how parents are going to be engaged in understanding that just because there's no grade on Power School to check, how that interface is going to happen, and how parents are going to understand and get trained for this, because I think a lot of times there's a lot of, parents like, wait a minute, what's this gone? And it's gone. And so what are we going to do as a school to proactively engage all the parents to understand the change that's coming through in the grading systems, in the homework, in the expectations about what we're going to be able to see, and the opportunities for our kids too, alongside that.
Well, this is just off the cuff, and not thinking it through.
I'm not going to quiz you on this. You've got a proficiency-based.
A lot of it, I think you'll still be able to go into Power School and see the types of assignments that are expected of kids. And, I mean, I don't know, in terms of completion and procrastinating, I mean, I think panicking and getting things all done in the last week is in and of itself a learning opportunity that you want your kid to have before they go to high school. And if you're really lucky, they'll have it before college. So, I mean, and what we have right now is not necessarily the grades, but the 1, 2, 3, 4 that for most people just transfer to A, B, C. It would be, I think ultimately the goal is that you really look at performance-based learning. You see the product, you see what the learning has been by what the concluding project is. And how parents keep abreast of that will be a learning for parents and teachers.
And I think, okay.
Well, I was just going to add, I'm associated with 2 high school classes, one in the fall and one this semester. And we use proficiency-based assessments, but it also rates people's participation and progress on projects. So we still use an assessment that parents can kind of relate to.
Okay.
I think it gets away from the A, B, C, D, F at the high school level. Elementaries have been on a 1 through 4 scale for a long time, and that makes it a lot easier. Nearly proficient, that sort of thing. The high school is having a harder time, or will have a harder time, doing away with letter grades or number grades.
So will there be those nearly proficient and
Yeah.
proficient? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And along the
That
way,
helps.
there's progress reports saying, like a mentoring project, this student is great attendance going to the elementary school, working with younger students, but isn't writing up the reports. So that sort of thing that a parent can relate to still gets home.
In a narrative kind of form.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that too, that we'll see more.
I just think as we move into this, it would be great to do some open house kind
Yeah,
of
definitely.
training for parents to understand how this is all going to work, because this is so different from pretty much how education's been done. I could pull my dad's report cards from 1941, and I completely understand them. So I think it'd be great to do some engagement around that.
Through the years, we've always talked about wanting to have those type of discussions with our community, specifically the parents and the schools, but I think it'd be great if it could come out of maybe the school board with support from administration and teachers, and sort of foster maybe even a series of discussions about what the school does and how it does it, and so that parents, we engage a little bit more.
And to come into it as though, we're learning it, the car's running and it's not like we have all the answers of what it's going to look like at the end. And that's hard for us. It's hard to then talk about it as though we know exactly what's going on here. Don't you worry about anything. We got this down. That it's an evolving thing.
I
and it
think it's
really
quite
is.
acceptable for educators to show
Just,
that
yeah.
they're learning as well.
That's good.
So
Remember that. Yeah, because you look through it and you don't see, well, where's Civil War taught? Where's,
yeah.
when do you learn latitude and longitude? It's different.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Alan.
Thank you, Ellen.
Sure. I'm gonna leave my poster.
Yes, you can.
I wasn't talking about my bedtime, by the way.
Well, it's okay if you were. I get it. So, the next thing on the agenda is the warrants.
How about recognition of groups back?
Oh,
Because I said I had a couple of
oh, that's
things
right.
planned, so-
Jody, my brain's somewhere else.
Yeah, that's both mine, so that's okay. Couple of things that I just wanted to briefly comment on. One of them you have discussed when you went round and round as to whether you were going to sign up and join the VSBA, and you decided to eventually this time to do that. There's a lot of discussion throughout the state as to whether towns are going to be joining VSBA or not. And even if you did agree to sign up and join them, I would encourage you to perhaps write to the VSBA about concerns that you have. Because right now, they're not even representing the local schools. They're representing more supervisory unions. And there is a push in the state to try to get another organization to represent local districts. So I'm just asking the board if they would consider encouraging writing a letter to the VSBA with concerns that you might have. The other thing that I wanted to say is, been a concern of mine for a few years now, watching from the sidelines, and not so much from the sidelines, but what's happening district-wide. I am very glad that your board has chosen to include everybody in the board on different levels, different committees and whatever, to broaden it out. But what I see happening locally in the supervisory union is a more of an enclosement, more power to the finance committee, more power where it's going to be an executive board. Is it going to be, you're going to add the negotiations to it? It's more power to fewer people. And that bothers me a lot, because you've got members, you've got, like for supervisory, every town has 3 members on the supervisory union. And every one of those members, voting members of the supervisory union, should have an important committee or whatever, and not be limited down to a few people. And I'm seeing it coming down to a few people. And I'm just passing that off as an observer on the outside. The third thing that just came up tonight, Amy said there is going to be a meeting of the study committee on the 25th. I don't see it on the agenda at all.
I would report that it's going to be changed to June 6th.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
why it's not listed.
Yeah.
That's okay. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, there were conflicts.
Okay, thanks. I hope I kept it short enough.
You did, it was fabulous.
Can I just say
Sure.
So, Jody, I was asked and appointed to the VSBA
Mhm.
as the local rep. So, at one of the last meetings, I shared that with these guys, and I'm happy to take any local concerns up there. And having participated in 2 of their meetings, I don't get the feeling that they're just representing supervisory unions, that it is very much local voices.
That was their vote last year, that's what they were going to do. And I listened to VPR yesterday when Gio was on the healthcare, issue. And he made some comments about that they send a survey around to all the boards as to what they want to participate in. And I'm not a board member, but I've never heard of the board getting these surveys. And so
I can follow up on that.
because
Yeah.
it would be important. Now, maybe it's just the ones that go to the October meeting. I don't know,
Yeah.
because I've never been a part of that.
Yeah. So-
But that would be a concern that they do, because somebody called in and said, "You don't represent me. You've never asked me my opinions." And he said, "Yes, we do. We send a survey out."
So, but just to go back, my impression, having participated in just 2 meetings, is that it's not it's not the bigger bodies, that it is small community bases input at those meetings that's coming through. And then the SU consolidation piece, I guess my takeaway from that through the years is that fewer and fewer people are able or willing, whatever, to serve in roles such as school boards. And I don't think it's implicitly clear when you sign up to be on a school board that there are other obligations beyond the local meetings. So I think the pool of candidates, you get dwindles down to those few who, are actively engaged and are able to have the time to commit to other committees as well.
Well, I'm glad to see that this board has been actively engaged, so.
Yep.
I wish other boards were as actively engaged.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason I served on the SU committee and sought the position of chair is I wanted to have a smaller town more vocally present as a lead on the SU board. So.
Thank you.
Katie,
Yes, Dan.
just as general public being here, I don't see this on the agenda tonight, but I brought it up at the last meeting about, I would hope the board would discuss how you interacted with your committee appointees and how the information transfer has gone back and forth. And I don't see it here, so there's going to be a vote very soon at the SU level on healthcare. And I encouraged you at the last meeting, I beg you this meeting to talk about it as a board. You guys have a responsibility to discuss what's happening. You have a responsibility to tell your appointed person to inform you about what's happening rather than just let things happen with not having any knowledge. So I really would like to see you folks take an interest in that fairly large decision that will be taking place soon. And I'm dismayed that no one else appears to seem interested in partaking in that. And the other comment I'd like to make is I'm not sure of the timing of when Christina asked for information from Frank, but it was at least 2 meetings ago. And so that would be about a month minimum. And I don't know if she's gotten the information, but my impression is the information has not been transferred from Frank to her so that she can talk about pre-K, whether that's an option or not. And that's a month's time that's been lost. And I really, there was a time not very long ago when we all agreed that the SU would give information within 5 days. And I understand that some information, a communication didn't get transferred to Frank, but since that time, you still don't have the information. The response you got was, I suggest you wait and we'll talk about it later. I'm not sure how that helps the board make decisions. So those are my 2 points for now, and I'll hold until later.
So the first transmittal didn't happen to Frank, so Frank didn't get it, so that was delayed 2 weeks. And then Frank did respond within the 5-day time frame, well within it, but said that with the legislative changes, we should wait. But
That's what I just said.
just got the buy-in, I know.
My concern as a citizen, a taxpayer, is that this board is not getting the information it needs to make decisions in a timely manner. As a matter of fact, it's not even getting the information. It's getting pushback.
Can I just add one thing about the healthcare?
Yes, you can.
I believe that we have on our agenda executive session, and I think we will be going into that tonight to delve into such matters.
And I'd like to see what can be discussed in public, because the specifics may not be able to be, but the generalities can be discussed in public, and I'd like to have you guys discuss as much as you possibly can in public so that there's transparency.
So could I just clarify something? The meeting that is tomorrow night, that is the SU board, and then there's also smaller board meetings. Isn't the smaller board meetings to discuss what's happening at the SU meeting, or is that have something to do with, I know it has something to do with
Yeah, I mean,
negotiations?
I was gonna report that under my administrative, but the finance and negotiation committees are gonna meet at 5. The full SU will get an overview of the tentative agreement. The individual boards will have discussions about that, and my intent tonight was to talk in executive session about the parameters of the settlement, which would not be appropriate for open session.
Does that, but healthcare's wrapped up in all of
Yes,
that?
yeah, that's all.
So there is another meeting tomorrow wrapped in with an SU board meeting, but then there's like breakout of individual boards. Time to discuss those things also.
All of you will be attending that meeting tomorrow night?
I will not be attending, but as far as I know, everyone else is. And Christina will be taking my place.
So what
as
I'm
chair.
asking is that you get educated, and then you direct your appointed members how to vote, rather than them just voting any way they want to vote. Because it is a board decision that affects this school and this community. I just think it's good practice for a board to be engaged in decisions of their appointed committee members.
Okay.
So just to clarify, tomorrow night, each board will have an opportunity to vote on that tentative settlement.
At the SU level.
Yes.
Well,
No.
as part of the SU board meeting, it's a spin-off, a break-off of the individual boards that will then have discussion about the settlement and actually vote on it.
The 3 members will vote.
Yes, or
Yeah,
the
the whole
quorum
board.
of the board.
Yeah.
The quorums of each board.
Do you mean you're just gonna get the information tomorrow night and expected to vote tomorrow night too?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna go into executive session and share what I can with the board.
Oh, so the board tonight will know what you're gonna talk about
Yes.
tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we are probably one of the last boards to get the information because of just the cycle.
Mhm.
Okay.
And I will just say that I have been trying to come up in a speed, but who knew healthcare was so difficult to understand? Just the Ash Amendment, the this, the that, 26 million, 13 million.
That's what the VSBA would have you think. It's not
Well,
that difficult.
no, but I've been getting multiple sources as a good citizen, so it's tough to follow, so.
Okay, moving on to finances and the warrants.
Move that we approve the warrants.
I second.
Any discussion or questions about the warrants?
So one very small question, you have a Melanson bill in there as a custodial bill?
It's a contracted service under the custodial account.
Oh, I see, okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor of approving the warrants for $55,380.75, please say aye.
Aye.
Nays or abstentions? No? Yay, they pass. Administrative reports.
I'm just gonna pass around some pictures of the week in review. We've talked a little bit about the parade last week, the All-State Parade Festival, which our own band director, Mary Harvey Bandish, was in charge of the state band festival this year in Brattleboro. And there were 500 plus musicians who participated.
15 bands, I think.
15 bands in total, and Dummerston's Guilford's band led the way. And I thought they did a great job. I included the letter that we got from the festival director, Stephen Parker, up in Williston, about Mary's work on that courageous task of organizing that and then getting Brattleboro town to cooperate with it on a weeknight. I thought it was pretty good. And then from the National Highlight magazine, we have a published member of our student population to show off tonight. It's our very own Micaiah Luker in grade 2, got his poem published in there.
I think I was more excited than him.
Along with his illustration, which was just, and then I have some pictures of the work that the lower grades K to 4 are doing with Beak this year, thanks to the generous donation of the Dummerston Conservation Group. And this is with grade 4 and a trip over to the brook, which is somewhere. I'm not quite sure where it is, but it's over there someplace. Last week we had our vocal music concert, which again was, we were at capacity. It looked like the social event of the season if you're driving down Route 5.
Yeah, everybody wants to know when we have our concerts, what the heck is going on?
I know. And if it just happens to coincide with some rec league baseball, it's tough to find parking. But certainly now is the beginning of important dates to remember. They're coming fast and furious. We have our Teddy Bear Tea on Thursday. We have our Memorial Day ceremony on Friday morning. And then it's June.
8th grade.
Yeah. 8th grade trip is coming up June 1st and 2nd.
Where are they going?
They're going to upstate New York for an overnight. Yeah, so.
Thank you.
That's it. I can't think of anything else.
I got a few dates just to confirm, some of them which have been already spoken about, but, so tomorrow night, the SU Finance and Negotiation Committees will meet at the CUSIC conference room at the Curzon at 5 p.m. And then the SU Board will convene at 6 p.m. And as we talked, individual boards then will have their meetings related to the contract negotiations. And I'll go into more in executive session on that. There's a new board orientation. I think you have the date, May 31st. And I think in your minutes it had 4, but I think we're starting at 4:30.
How
Based
long will
on-
it be?
About an hour.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just because I have an alternative meeting at 6, but that should be
Yeah,
fine.
good.
And that's at the office, is that right? Or is that?
I believe it is at the central office.
Okay.
I don't believe it's tied to another meeting that
I see
night. So.
that. Oh, and it was in the minutes.
The CUSIC room is the one near the football field, right?
No.
It's closest to the Wyndham Regional Career
Yeah.
Center. If you go to the back of the high
Towards
school,
that church.
there's a
Yes,
little
towards the
playground.
church.
Off.
Yeah.
As you go to the front of the high school, take the first right.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Towards where you go to the middle school?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
And then the
Okay.
first building on the left.
On the left or on the right?
On the left,
On the
when you're
left,
looking
okay.
at it.
Take the
Yep.
right, but the building's on the left, and then you'll get parking either by the building or
Perfect.
at the church parking lot.
Okay, I think I.
Yeah.
And you go in the entrance by the playground. There's a little
Little
childcare center
toddler
there.
playground.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And
And then it's up the stairs. You go walk all the way down the hallway, up the stairs, and then walk
All the way
back to the front.
very annoying.
So,
Good exercise.
yeah.
And so the 31st, and yes, that
That's
would
at
be.
the central office.
Central office, yeah.
Thank you.
Then the study committee meeting was tentatively set for May, but there was so many conflicts that it got changed to June 6th. And I believe we're hoping that's gonna be at the CUSIC conference room, but we'll get the location out as soon as we can confirm it. That's it for me, until we get further down on the agenda.
Okay. Committee reports.
We've met since then. We started to fill in the matrix a little bit more with the goal,
What are you reporting on?
the
Oh,
Dummerston.
sorry. All right, sorry.
Okay, no worries. We started to fill in the matrix a little bit with the goals and try to put some more details in there. Sue Megliaro's making a trip over to North Bennington to meet with them, just to fill in the column. She's been doing some, really putting a lot in to looking at that alternative option and spending a day there on June 2nd. And we are meeting again on the 31st at 6 o'clock for anybody who would like to join. I will be warning that meeting, so if you'd like to attend.
At 6?
You're welcome. At 6 o'clock. I'm actually rethinking I might make it 6:30 in case this other meeting that just got pushed back.
Email us, right?
I will. Yeah. No, I'll warn it. I'll decide tonight how
I'm sorry.
fast I can drive.
What day again?
The 31st.
5:31. Okay, thanks.
Which of you are on the building and grounds committee?
Amy and I.
Any other committee reports? Okay. Moving on to unfinished business, Act 46 discussion. There's been nothing?
Nothing, since we'll be reviewing everything on June 6th.
June 6th. Okay. So let's go back to our old friends, the Code of Ethics. Michael put together a sample or a trial.
I do have some copies. They have,
My scratches on it.
I could also print my own copy, and they have.
So now you have mine. Oh, sorry.
Christina's
Now
thoughts
we
on
know
that
what
one.
Christina's thoughts
You
are.
want this
You want a
one?
copy?
Oh, I don't need one. I have one.
So just real quickly, I took the Word document and kind of made it specific to Dummerston. I kept the general structure, but tried to incorporate certain things from the other ethics, statutes or guidelines that other states had, and this is it.
It would have been, I mean, this is hindsight, but it would have been good to highlight what was changed, just for reference, you know, what you added and.
Sure. Yeah. There's probably a way to compare the documents.
So everybody has my comments.
I don't.
Oh, you don't.
Well, here, I'll show you.
There you
Oh, I
go.
had 2 copies. Here you go.
Okay.
Well, the housekeeping one,
Mhm.
I'll do the last one first because that's just housekeeping. Come prepared to attend all regularly scheduled board meetings insofar as possible. I think that maybe fall under respects or official law. I don't think it fell under ethical standards and conflict of interest. I don't know. Just seemed like a weird heading
Sure.
for it. I don't know if there's a better place.
Yep, I agree.
Although I think it is unethical to join a board and then not
That's
show up to
true.
any
Yeah, I
of the
was
meetings,
gonna say
so
that.
that's.
So-
That is
that's-
very true, but I don't think in the sense of
I
this,
think that might be the lowest ethical standard, it's the highest
Yes.
ethical standard.
all these things would be
Indeed.
ethical.
Yes.
I believe, and I didn't get a chance to look it up before the meeting, but I think that a Vermont statute, if you have a conflict of interest policy, the remedy has to be, there has to be like, if a conflict of interest is discovered and somebody, and I think it's in the VSBA one, that you have to say what happens if the board finds or the public brings a conflict of interest to the table. And so, I'm sorry, I did not look that up. But there's one in the VSBA for that. And I think that's a statutory requirement.
Is it VSBA or Vermont statute?
Well, it is as Vermont statute, but I was just scratching this for
Yep.
myself. The VSBA has one, we could just take theirs.
What I think we use probably theirs, isn't there a policy or procedure for, do we have that in the overriding SU?
Yeah, I missed your first comment. Is it on conflict of interest?
Yeah, on how that's processed.
It's in statute.
It is in statute, okay, so it's not a policy that we would have, okay.
So I just think it would be good if we could put it in the policy, so
Okay.
it's, as people are reading through and signing something, I think it's good to do that. I just had a question if we should have a dollar limit for, so when we're asked to uphold the highest ethical standards and avoid conflict of interest, we are to not receive items of value from the Dummerston School or SU unless it's in recognition of service or achievement. Should we put a dollar limit on that? I mean,
No.
no.
You guys are cheap, I wouldn't worry about that.
That's a good point. Thanks, Rick. And then there's a state statute on conflict of interest and what it means. And if you want it to mean something different, you have to spell that out. And I just wonder if, A, we should spell it out, or if we want to have a different definition of conflict of interest. But the statute says it's anybody in your employment, anybody in your household, anybody, any close relative. And so I just think it would be good if we fleshed that out in writing, so people, like, if you had a big jam contract, well, no, that doesn't work because I own that company, but if.
So send me my husband, that doesn't count.
But say it was his job and you had a big jam contract and I bid on it, then that would be a conflict of interest, whereas if I were not involved in the business, it wouldn't. So that it's abundantly clear to somebody signing this that it isn't just about you. It's if Caroline owned the jam company and we had a big jam and I was voting on it, that I would have to recuse myself from that to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest. So that, because there's a statute on it, we should be informing future board members what that is that they're committing to.
Yeah, that might be good to just sort of reinforce the notion that as board members, we aren't parents, that we are board members first. And that parent issues come up after and outside of meetings. Because that's been an ongoing issue at various times through the years.
I have the Vermont statute definition of conflict of interest. It's kind of long. Should I just give it to you and you can add it to this? I don't know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, and thank you, Michael. Thank you for putting all that together.
Sure.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Just that, I'm not sure what this means. Takes responsible steps to ensure a teacher or administrator may be released from a contract prior to offering a prospective employee a position at Dummerston School.
Yeah, that's a little.
But you can't go stealing to more teachers.
I can't do what?
You can't go stealing more
Right here.
teachers.
Oh, is that what it means? Position for a teacher or administrator. Okay, so a
it's
different
actually-
contract, not the
it's just-
contract
it's
here.
just
I get it.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
it's just
Okay,
rewritten
sorry.
from the way
Yep.
that the one that was proposed for us by the administration, which
Okay.
says not agree to the hiring of a superintendent, principal, or teacher already under contract with another school district unless assurance is first secured from the proper authority that the person can be released from his or her contract.
Yep.
Can I ask a question on the one about confidentiality? In the original VSBA one, it seems like it's more involved than what we have in this latest version.
So what's the difference?
Well, the original one is maintain confidentiality of information in discussion conducted in executive session and uphold applicable laws with respect to the confidentiality of student and employee information. This one just goes right to
Yeah.
student and employee information.
I actually prefer the original. I don't know about you guys. I feel like it's a little more specific.
Yeah, it talks about these confidential discussions as well as that
Right.
some confidentiality is bound legally versus.
That executive session could be added to that third bullet point when they talk about open meeting law. That might be a good place just to add it. And then, because because that covers the executive session confidentiality, and then the other student and employee information confidentiality that you may come across that doesn't come in executive session.
But you
stay in
might,
that folder.
but you might be talking about student and or employee information in executive session.
But then, no, I'm saying add on to that executive session bullet point, align to maintain confidentiality of what happens in executive session. But then you also have to maintain other student and employee information that you might get outside of. So it's like a double hit.
I brought copies of the original just so we could compare if this sort of thing came up.
I guess
Sure,
I-
so generally, I mean, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I prefer the originals, because I feel that, like, that's clearer, that executive session is private information regardless of the discussion material, and as well as discussion that happens about students or employees. I guess that personally I like the weird wording of the original because I feel like it's clearer.
So the reason I changed it is because this only talks about executive session, but Vermont has an open meeting law, and that really defines how one must first enter into executive session and what can happen in executive session, and is really the standard because it's the statute that exists for all public bodies. So I thought it broader to say that you're complying with the open meeting law. So not only the information that happened in executive session, but you have an obligation to only go into executive session in the event that it's appropriate to the discussion. In other words, that you've made this a sufficient finding to enter executive session for a legal means. In other words, it
Yeah.
kind of goes a step further.
Yeah, I think the bullet ahead of that is good.
So I think what they're saying is just instead of the last bullet, put in this bullet.
Yeah,
Put in comply.
Yep.
I see.
I have this. I don't know
No,
if you need it.
yeah, I have that one, thank you. Appreciate it.
So Michael, you'll make those tweaks
Sure.
and send it out to us again?
Sure, I'm happy to make those tweaks. And as you got this from the Secretary of State's website, is that right?
I
Okay.
did, yes.
So I'll look up. I know that's the 24
That's
VSA
the
is the
statute.
municipal law statute. So
We're a municipality.
we are a municipality. We are the school district is a municipality in the state of Vermont. That's correct.
So that applies to us.
Yep.
Okay.
It should, absolutely. Can't keep it to a page then.
I know,
I'll try.
I know.
Yeah. Ethics have no page limits, I guess it's really the
Well, I just-
takeaway.
I just think it's really important to know what you're signing.
I agree.
That's all, and everything else, I mean, without spelling out open meeting law, which is a 32-page document, if we can just explain what a conflict of interest and who it applies to, I think that's worth doing. It's worth the ink.
Mhm,
All right.
I agree.
Okay, moving on. Norm setting?
Yeah, I emailed out to everybody,
Yes, you did.
and I didn't hear anything back from anybody, and I did not bring copies tonight because I was running.
Yeah.
Well, it should be in your emails.
Yeah, I got it.
I'm sorry to say I didn't print it either. Perhaps we should wait until Katie.
Emily's.
Yep.
And Emily's
Until, I'm
on
sorry,
it.
until, well, maybe until you leave too. I don't know.
That's what I said last time.
Yeah,
and
we
it was
did,
actually
yeah.
like, no,
We
you
got a
have
head
to be
start,
here.
but.
So we'll table?
Tabling it.
Table that.
And Christina, I'll send that
Okay, that'd be
along
great.
to you.
All my email problems were solved.
And so we can all look at it and discuss it. We already did the middle school elementary report. We are
Good
so,
for us.
update on pre-K
I
discussion.
think I've already done that.
I think we did it too.
I have one quick question about that.
Yes.
I understand how the pre-K can affect the ADM, but is the free and reduced, can that be affected by pre-K as well? Can that go towards the count of the free and reduced, or is it just the student count?
You're asking if preschoolers qualify for free and reduced, it affects your overall numbers.
Yes, sir.
Yes, it does.
It will.
It will,
Okay.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yes?
What grades, what ages are considered preschool?
Most programs have 4-year-olds, some have 3 and 4-year-olds.
I thought it was 3 and 4, and earlier you just mentioned a count of 10 4-year-olds, so if it really does apply to 3 and 4-year-olds, is there a reason a
There's-
school would not open it up to 3 and 4-year-olds, and if that's so, I'd like to know.
I mean, I don't know the reasons why, but there definitely are some schools that will only accept 4-year-olds. 4 by the time that, by the date of that school would consider, so if they turn 5, kindergarten ready time, you know what I mean? So by September 1st. But then, doesn't Putney do 3 and 4-year-olds?
They do.
But the new program that's happening at Oak Grove is only 4-year-olds.
Right.
And then other ones around are only 4-year-olds. And I'm not sure, and I think there might be different funding sources for the 3s and 4s.
Yeah, and the
versus
list
just
that I
4s.
have, I don't have any 3-year-olds. So I think it's
Meaning there's
related.
not a column for it, or?
Right.
Okay.
Well, there's a whole list of students with their birth dates
Oh, you mean the ones that are going to
Getting
that are
schools
part of your
else-
preschool contracts.
No.
Yeah.
And there are no
Is it because you didn't ask for 3-year-olds, or?
No, I think it's because of the rules related to 3-year-olds versus 4-year-olds.
Well, 'cause when
Because so I can say like in Wyndham Northeast, it's 4-year-olds. And so then I think a few years ago, it was only 4-year-olds that would get the state funding. And then they opened it up to 3 and 4-year-olds. So maybe that list only counted the 4-year-olds because whatever reason for that funding source. But there are some that do 3 and 4-year-olds now.
Private schools do 3-year-olds.
Right, so
And
that's one thing, you can do, private school can take 3 and 4-year-olds, but to get the state funding,
Well, that was my first
Yeah.
question, and I thought it was 3 and 4.
I think for the,
That's what the papers say, but you can't always believe what they say.
yeah, I think for our program, we only get reimbursed for the 4-year-olds, but I will check.
Because that's pretty important when you start wanting to, you start evaluating whether it
Right.
makes
Yeah.
sense or not. There's a lot of reasons to do it, but you need to understand the numbers.
If Putney already has 3-year-olds, could we check with Putney?
Yeah, they have a different system because I think they started it without getting any money for 3-year-olds, but they felt like it was important to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're a pretty well-established program now in terms of this teaching staff that's integrated into their budget. When they first started, probably over 10 years ago, they were 4-year-olds with Head Start students that qualified in Putney. And then they changed that because they just didn't have enough Head Start students to justify the funding that was not coming in. So at that point, they decided, okay, so we've made the commitment for the teaching staff, let's open it up, a free program, and let's include 3-year-olds. But I think there's kind of a criteria for that as well. So I will check on the funding and get some information about their 3-year-old program.
And the ADM as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean about the funding. Yeah.
Okay.
Dan, you wanna volunteer to go knock on doors to get a count of all the 3-year-olds in Dummerston?
I think I'm bringing enough of them in. You guys can count them. And I don't mean personally bringing.
I was gonna say, do you know something I don't know?
It'll be 3 minutes. I was like, okay, so
I
it's
did
2.
my 2.
Anyway, whatever. Okay. So, food service agreement.
Okay, so I think you received something from Barb?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
Did you get the cover sheet?
We got the cover sheet and then 35 pages,
Okay, so you did, you get
just
the
in
whole
case
thing.
someone wanted to
All
read the
right.
contract.
So, this is the 4th of a 5-year contract. And there are certain sections that the board chair would need to sign. What Joe Carroll and I talked about is probably opening up the contract next year for new bids. But in terms of finishing up the 4th year, this is probably the way you would have to do it at this point in the year. This cover sheet gives you a little background on the budgeted resources. And if you look at the 2016-17, there's 2 columns for that, because the second column was revised. So the net cost of the district was first reported at $11,505, and that's now reduced to $7,009. The projection for next year would be the $8,227. You've budgeted $13,000 plus, so you're in good shape with that. I think there's probably some discussion about facilities upgrade or cooler or some sort of
Right, they're,
project that you need done.
we're leasing a
Okay.
freezer from them
So-
right now.
Sounds like you'd be covered for those upgrades within your budget because it's only gonna cost you $8,200, $8,300, let's say.
Can I ask just a couple questions? Because
Yeah.
Barb had said it was a 3-year summary.
Yeah,
And so it's not that these numbers are wrong, it's that it's really just a 2-year summary.
It's a 2-year
Okay,
summary.
okay.
And I think she looked at the.
She saw the 3 columns, okay, that's what I
columns,
figured, I
yeah.
just wasn't sure if the numbers were wrong as I was
And I
looking
think
at
what
it.
Mary Lou Steiner in our office wanted to make sure is that you saw the revised numbers.
Mhm.
So,
And I have another question, the contract, it says that the FSA, because I kind of read most of it, won't pay more than $8,227.
Right.
And so, which is what we're projecting for this coming year. And I don't remember what page it's on. Do you, is this the whole thing?
No, I stopped the printing when I realized, I thought it would just print the cover page and then it just kept going, so it's like, okay, I'm not printing 35 pages of.
In the contract, it says that there.
SFA, right?
The SFA will not, that we'll all work together, but the FSA will not pay more than $8,227.
Relationship to the parties. Responsibilities.
So that's
Page
good,
2.
right? So we don't have
That's
to,
good.
we won't pay them the 13,000 and that we have
Right.
to set aside.
We shouldn't, as per the contract.
right.
Right.
Well, it's after, looks like it's after, it was way in, it was,
Katie?
Yes.
Can I ask a question about this food program? This says it's the 4th year of the 5th-year contract, but yet you said you could open it up again next year?
You can open it up every year, but at this time of the year, you just wouldn't be able to do it.
Because people keep asking at town meeting
Yeah.
for a different program, for a farm-to-table type program or things like that. And
So I would say you should think about that in your budget development in the fall, and then probably at least by January, do a bid process. if
Okay,
that's what
so,
you're
I mean,
interested
because we have, there's a person in the district, because I came to a meeting when she was here to talk about the farm-to-table program. Wasn't that what she was talking about, who handles the district?
Which costs money to get into.
in. Yeah.
And we do a lot of farm-to-table produce.
Local?
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Through the same contracted services as
6.3, it's the break-even
Cafe
guarantee.
Services
Page
does.
12.
Page 12.
Yeah, it's,
Because I was under the impression the cafe services wasn't that great.
Oh,
11.
sorry, page 11.
sorry.
Huh?
Yeah, I know, there's not a lot of players
6.3
in the
break-even guarantee.
school food service, you know, options is the problem. But one of the things that came up at the town meeting, was it this year or last year?
Well, it's been mentioned the last couple of town meetings. that
Was
people
about Dummerston being the only school that didn't participate in the fresh fruit and vegetable
Yeah.
snack program. And the central office added our name to the grant, we got the money for it. And the first thing that came out from it was, this is the amount of money you have. If you're gonna spend it at the co-op or these places, you're gonna run out much faster
Oh,
than
yes.
if you go,
Yeah.
you know, to a couple of other places, so. But that's worked out really well this year.
Uh-huh. Well, that's
With,
good to hear that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just trying to, this is what people keep saying at town meeting, and I just wanted to know when the
Right.
time was for them to, if they want to push you guys to do something different, the time is in the fall then, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay.
Or, yes, into the winter, because the other thing I wanted to bring up too was the prices that they had set for next year. My understanding was that only the state would have to approve these prices.
They have,
They approved this for
Yeah.
next year?
they've
Excellent.
actually requiring us to increase them.
Right, and I
Yeah.
thought they had before, and we only were able to get it up to 260 this year, so.
Yeah.
But this is a big jump from that.
Yeah, so they're recommending the 260 to 275. They actually recommended 286, but they say you can do it over a 2-year period, so that's why we have the 275, because it is a big jump. And then the milk prices on the last sheet, I don't have that in front of me, but it's from what to what?
I don't have it, it's 60 cents now, 65 cents.
65 cents.
And you still have the free and reduced lunch, people that take care of. And
Yeah.
one time, more than one time, I've heard you say that there are a lot of people in Dummerston you don't think sign up because they're too proud. Are you still feeling that way?
No, I'm not feeling that way. I think that happens a lot more at the high school.
I've
But
heard you
now
say
that
it
they
here.
have, maybe, but now that they have that direct, it's not direct deposit,
Certification.
but direct certification.
Yeah.
It seems to be less of a,
So you don't think there's people
No.
out there who really need it or aren't getting it?
I do not.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So back to the previous point about the break-even guarantee, it does say under 6.3 that we'll work together to ensure it's financially sound, well-run operation, yada, yada, yada. And the break, so we'll kick in up to $8,227, so we shouldn't be paying anything more than that. So,
Right, that's what
so no
you're
matter what
signing
happens,
off.
that's why it's budgeted that way.
Yes.
So I just wondered, the contract also says that we will, that the FSA, that's us, will establish and maintain an advisory board composed of parents, teachers, students to assist in menu planning. 7 CFR 2016.
We do that
We do.
twice a year.
Okay.
And luckily, we have a lot of parents that can just be here.
So if you're ready to sign off on it,
Ready to
I
sign
have
off.
Katie do the signature pages.
You
There's
need a
about 5.
motion?
We need a
Yes, we do,
motion.
we do.
I move, we
You know,
accept.
there's a balance too between, like, for a company that does want to try to make some money, they want to put out what most kids want to eat. And as much as it kills me, brunch and lunch is a big thing for these kids that want.
Not my family.
Well, it's a big seller. So there's always sort of that, you know, we would love to educate their parents with these options, and then that number at the end of the year tends to go up a little bit.
So I make the motion that we accept this contract for year 4.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just have one, because I looked back on last year to refresh my memory, and Ron said that it was the 3rd year of a 4-year contract, and now we're the 4th year of a 5-year contract. So,
What I say?
you last year said it was the 3rd year of a 4-year contract.
I would have
then-
said what was reported to me on.
No,
the
I'm not, I just
contract.
felt like, is this the 4th year, or is this
That's what I-
whatever?
That's
Okay.
what I have from my
Okay,
office.
all right,
I think the important thing is you want to reopen
yeah,
next year. Because you can do that annually.
right.
And should I do something about, I mean, was that my responsibility to just make sure that that happens and,
I would say in your budget development process, make sure
Okay.
you're talking to Frank
okay,
about your intentions to open a bid
Okay.
process. Because he's gonna be the one that has to organize that, and if you don't, I won't be back here, but Lyle will be back here, or somebody will be back here with the 5th year of the 5-year contract, or maybe the 5th year of a 1st-year contract. I don't know.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Nays or abstentions? Excellent.
Hey, can I do one more item on food service? Typically,
No, I'm just kidding.
and you're gonna get this prior to your next agenda, but this school board has voted to opt out of the mandatory school breakfast. And if you're interested in doing that again, you'll have to do that through a vote of the board. So you'll be getting this document, that's kind of a historical document that requires the board to consider that and then have a vote of that at your next meeting. So you'll get that on the agenda.
Thank you. Apparently there's gonna be a board vacancy soon. I don't know if we know about that. Rick, are you coming back? I haven't gotten a letter of
That's why
interest yet. Waiting for your letter of interest. As far as I know, I have not heard that we've received any letters.
Was there an ad in the paper?
An ad was gonna go out in the Commons, it was in the school newsletter. And I haven't looked at the comments yet, so Barb was gonna put a box ad, so.
Didn't we post it on the town website, with the town, with Lori? That would probably be a good one.
I
Okay.
didn't do that.
You can do that?
I
Oh, you didn't?
didn't
Okay.
do that. I don't know if Barb has done that in the past.
She would do that as
She
long
would do
as
that?
she's
Yeah.
told
Okay.
when it's ready. You had a conversation, I think, with her.
We emailed back and
It's
forth
there.
quite often.
And the other one would be the.
It's
front-
already there, Katie.
But it's already there?
on the
Oh,
town.
okay, excellent, so Barb took care of it already.
And Front Porch Forum would be another one to post it on too.
Front Porch Forum.
Yeah, Dummerston's Front Porch Forum.
Oh.
Is there a deadline?
The deadline is the
ASAP.
31st of this month. Yes.
That's this week.
Next
No, it's
week.
next week. Today's the 23rd.
Can always be extended.
We've done that before, haven't we?
Nobody responds, so
Right, you
you
have
move
to.
us to extend it.
So, agenda items for our next meeting. So, our next meeting is the night of graduation, and we're meeting at 5:30, I believe we agreed on. So, it's a quick meeting. So, we'll do the breakfast, opting out of the breakfast vote.
We may have some 1% fund to approve,
Okay.
not all of them, but some of them.
So, I have down that we're gonna talk about our whole, getting an input from the administration. And I don't know if an hour is enough to open up that conversation.
I think it is.
You don't, you do?
I do.
Okay. So
Is your meeting only for now?
yeah, graduation's at 6:30, so we're having a meeting at 5:30, so it'll be less than an hour, so we can get to the gym. It's so far away. We can't walk in late. We don't wanna walk in with the graduates.
Another thing maybe to at least think about is that the VSBA put out an email recently, I think today, looking for resolutions to take to the annual meeting in October and to the legislatures. So there's that.
Okay.
And I know we've never done it before, but I've wondered about maybe having, not necessarily a retreat per se, but having an extended work session, you know, to target, it will be ending, but to talk about what we would like to, wait, no, sorry, let me start over. So, we finish our meetings in June, we typically take July off, and then we reconvene at the end of August, typically. And I thought maybe, I'd suggest that maybe we hold some type of work session over the course of the summer, if it fit people's calendars, or even in August, when we get closer to the school year, to sort of chart out what we think we would like to do, and maybe even think about budget planning, because we're talking about some very major endeavors. With preschool and, you know, alternative governance structures and that type of thing.
Well, we can, okay.
I think we'll probably have to meet in July, because we will have a new board member to bring on board, just as a regular, some events, I don't know. Maybe one meeting in July, yeah, not double meetings in July, but
Okay. Why would we have to meet in July?
Hopefully we'll have a new board member.
assuming we don't get a
But
board
we
member.
have, we
by
have two in June.
June, maybe we could get.
Yeah. So we could appoint them and then say, we'll see you. Here's a bunch of stuff to read.
In July, hopefully, you'll be working around waxed floors.
Yes.
Shampooed carpets.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that for us.
Sometimes you can meet out front.
The picnic table's in the back.
Maybe the town will let us use that.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly.
Downstairs in the church, whatever. Well, we'll see when.
I guess I was thinking of it in the context of sort of a collective and more comprehensive plan, rather than just going meeting to meeting to meeting with the specific agenda items, because, you know, that way we don't really get a whole lot accomplished. But if we have so the farther reaching goals that we can be, setting for ourselves and striving towards. We might get more than just a solar contract approved during the course of the year.
1 year, it was several years, yeah. So, okay, well, it's on the agenda for next time. So I have one more thing before we go into executive session. As you guys know, I'm not the only person around here that's leaving. So I have this certificate to present to Ron. This award is presented in recognition and appreciation of your dedication to the students and families of the Dummerston Town School District during your 15 years of service as a superintendent of schools.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. You've been holding on to that, huh?
I have been. I was like, is he ever going to come back to a meeting? Barb had sent that over, like, I don't know how long ago. She's like, all the other boards have done. I'm like, he hasn't come. Anyway,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
thank you.
Come fall, you might want to come work for the food service program.
We have a custodial
And that's how I
position
started in
open.
college. I was the food service manager.
Huh?
Perfect. You have experience.
I have experience.
We have a lot of openings, actually. School board, custodian,
He doesn't live in Dummerston.
STEM.
Yeah, sorry. I'm on the border.
So we motion to.
Letter from Rockingham.
I forgot, that's what that is.
We're up to our 2-hour mark.
Which is
But
fine
yeah,
with
do we
me.
need to?
And I've
No, but
got-
it is a communication, we had that letter from Rocky.
That's
We'll
right.
discuss it.
Can you just pass it around?
We
I
all
think
got
we all
it.
got it,
We
yeah.
all got it, but
So I
let's
think
table
it-
it to the next meeting.
Good idea.
We're getting to 2 hours, and that's
Yeah.
not gonna be pretty.
Okay. So we need a motion to go into executive session for
Contract negotiation.
contract negotiation.
Will we move
I
into
reckon-
executive session
I
for
do.
contract negotiations?
I second.
All in favor of going? Thank you, Jody.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Jody.
Will there be a decision?
No.